celebrating and showcasing extraordinary people who are doing incredible things to make our world a better place. This is Close Up Television. I'm your host, Jim Masters. Thanks for joining us. On today's episode, we celebrate equal pay activist, DEI advocate, certified coach, workshop leader, and keynote speaker, Lisa Gillette of Big Sky Coaching and Consulting. Lisa guides and supports and champions women to rise up the ranks of leadership all the way into the C-suite. She offers an extensive array of services, including one-on-one coaching services for women executives, high potentials, and entrepreneurs. She also offers original content workshops, mastermind pods, group coaching for corporate settings, keynote presentations for women leaders and the male colleagues who support their efforts, and more. In addition, her work as an executive coach, Lisa has extensive experience and a proven track record as a leader herself and in the competitive and ever-changing world of broadcast media. She has provided strategic and creative direction in the launch of over 300 sports networks in Europe, Asia, and South America. She's also a former sports television executive, head of on-air planning and operations at Fox Sports and 22 regional sports networks. Lisa is intimately familiar with the special challenges all women face in the workplace, especially those in senior leadership. She says, when you can see the big picture, you will find the opportunities. Now, to find out how Lisa helps her clients develop the skills and the vision to do just that, she joins me in the Close Up Television studio today for this exclusive interview. Lisa, thank you very much for joining us here in the Close Up Television studios. It's a pleasure. How was your flight to the East Coast?
Very boring, very safe. Thanks for having me.
Did you do a lot of reading?
I did a lot of reading, yes, and a lot of writing on the plane.
You know, I love the fact that you're a coach and that you've taken all of this experience, and you know, we've had the opportunity on Close Up Radio to chat on our radio series, so it's an honor to have you here at the television studio. And take all this incredible experience, this unique experience you've had in a very, as I would know as well, so I can relate, demanding, unpredictable, and competitive field as broadcast media, and all the different nuances, and pull from that experience and be able to translate some of that into this extraordinary world of coaching. Tell us a little bit about the illustrious background you've had in television, and particularly sports.
Yes, I am a former sports television executive, and I had the good fortune to be able to help launch a lot of sports networks in South America and in Asia, and only 2 in Europe, so I got to travel a lot. And it was a really very exciting time, and by the time I retired, no one really believed I was going to leave. They just weren't really accepting that.
Was that a hard decision to say, you know, I think I'm going to try something different?
Actually, no, it was not.
Like I said, demanding, unpredictable industry.
Yeah, I honestly was used to working 7 days a week, and I was used to working on holidays because that's when all the great sporting events are.
Yeah, sure.
And there was just a point where I realized there was something else that I needed to do, and what that was to support women who wanted to move into a leadership role.
Right.
And I had experienced some specific challenges based on the industry I worked in, but I also had some challenges that were just because I was a woman.
Yeah.
And so that's what I coach my clients now, is how to overcome those challenges.
What are some of the challenges that you're finding that still exist? Because I know there's been progress, there's been growth, there's been awareness, which is very important, but there still are a lot of challenges, and there's still a lot of road that needs to be paved. So having been in the thick of it and seeing and experiencing it yourself, what are some of those challenges that women particularly still face, not just in media per se, but in all industries?
I think not only in the workplace, but in the world, there are certain societal norms and cultural expectations about what women can or can't do and should be or should not be doing. And we know right now that there are so many challenges in the world, and we need new ideas, and we need people who are creative problem solvers. And it's not just that we need more women in leadership roles. We need people who are going to come in and really bring a new way of looking at things, new ideas, new solutions, and be able to work with, I'll use a strong word here, the old guard.
Sure, right.
Show them a new way, but actually get that spirit of collaboration so that we can create some solutions.
Now, are people generally open to that? Are they listening? Are they understanding that if you want to have more productivity, more happiness within a company, resulting in profitability, all these different things, that you need to first be open to this and at least come to the table and let's talk, right?
Right. Well, there's been so much research of late that shows when you have enlightened leadership, and by that I mean these are leaders who are making every decision based on what will be good for the greater community versus the chosen few, that you actually increase the bottom line.
Yeah.
You increase business.
Right.
And people are beginning to understand, wow, we need a new way to go forward here. So they are open.
They are open, which I think is fantastic. There, again, like you say, there's challenges, but you've had an opportunity through the work that you've done to make this transformation, to want to, and I love when people do this. I love when people take all the experience they've had in a given field, and as opposed to just retiring or moving on and just sort of going into the sunset, they say, look, you know, I want to take this experience and I see these opportunities to be able to inspire and empower other people. What do you think it is about you? What are some of the inspirations in your own life's journey that sort of pointed you in the direction to this new chapter even for Lisa?
Oh, that's a great question. I have to go back a number of years. I was at a luncheon. It was a women's industry event, and the table captain at the luncheon, who was supposed to direct the conversation, didn't show up. And they asked, would anybody do this? And I said, sure, I'll try. Give me the list of questions. And as I asked the first question, which was, what's the biggest challenge you face in your job? The woman across the table burst into tears, and she said, my boss. He yells at me. And I realized, oh my God, she works for the same person I do? And I realized she didn't, but I saw that women face a special set of challenges men normally don't. And when I realized that this was systemic, I started talking about it. I started talking to other women. And I realized that some of the experience I had at work were just because I was a woman in business, and that's not always accepted. And that was a big motivator.
So for the audience, would that be things of the nature of opinions not being valued or being considered relevant, or you know, why are you at this table? You should be doing this over here, or you know, a variety of different. I guess this, yes, and yes.
I'm laughing out loud because some of the challenges that women face when they're presenting is they get interrupted 6 times more than men. Other challenges that women face is there could be someone who has a great idea and no one at the table seems to hear it. 3 seats down, a man will repeat the same idea verbatim, and all of a sudden it's like, great idea. So one of the things that I coach both men and women is in your workplace, have a circle of support who can amplify your ideas when you're presenting or when you're sharing. And that they can actually say, you know, Sue mentioned that idea. Let's go back to her and ask her a little bit more. Before Bob brought it up, let's ask Sue about that. So there's some very simple steps you can take to make sure that everybody's voice is heard.
You're also an equal pay activist, right?
Oh, yes.
Just really define that for us and tell us about that, because, you know, obviously that's been talked about for years, but it's very prominent now in the news, which I think is fantastic. Tell us about some of that incredible work you do. So
let's just say that gender bias is not a myth, and we see this in the pay gap between men and women. Women earn anywhere from 54 to 91 cents on the dollar for every man who's in a similar role with a similar level of experience. So one of the problems is women don't ask. We'll take the first offer. And one thing that I coach all my clients, and I speak about this when I go out and speak, is I say, whatever that first offer is, even if it's your, oh my God, I died and went to heaven offer, you look at it, you push it back across the table, and you smile and you say, I'm so excited about this opportunity, but I have one question. Is there any upward movement in this number? you can end up another 5K, another 10K. I used that ploy when I became a senior vice president, and I actually got a 40% increase. So it's just a simple request, but that is one of the big challenges with pay. Women just don't ask. Another issue is that people still have in their minds that men are the primary breadwinners. But how many women are heading up single parent families?
Yeah,
and
right.
women need to ask. We lose anywhere from $500,000 to up to $5 million over the course of our careers by not negotiating our salary.
And why do you think that is? What do you think holds them back? Is it they don't think that they are valuable enough, or is it a self-worth type of situation, or are they just so excited to get the job, period, that they don't even think that there's opportunity to do a little negotiating, or predict that they're going to be shot down anyway?
I think it's a bit of all of that,
Yeah.
and I refer to that as the likability liability.
Right.
Many times as women, we're really concerned about how others perceive us, and we want to be liked. And we also feel that if we ask, we're not being grateful. Also, too, we're socialized that way. As children, we're told, sit in your desk,
Yeah.
keep your hands in your lap, do your work, keep your head down, you will be recognized. In a corporate setting, oh, that doesn't fly.
No.
You're shooting yourself in the foot. If you're not able to say, I did this, I helped the company expand into these markets, I drove the bottom line, this is how I saved time and money. You have to be able to talk to your accomplishments. You have to own your expertise.
Sometimes people, they dwell on perhaps whatever they're perceiving as their negatives, and they forget about the skill set and the
Right.
talent and the strengths that they have.
Right.
So the dwelling on the negatives becomes this black cloud,
Correct.
dwarfing
Correct.
all this positive that even other people might be recognizing, but you're
Right.
just not tapping into or sharing. And that can be for women and men. Tell us a little bit about how you work with people to try to really focus, and even if there are some things that maybe they could tweak or perfect, to get through is to really rise up and look at the things that you're bringing to the table that might be quite unique and of great value to
Right.
others and to a company.
Right. So let's acknowledge we all have strengths and stretches and blind spots. However, if you get really stuck, and this is what I coach all my clients about, and you can't really speak to what your expertise is, start with the simple question, what do people come and ask you for help with? How are you feeling? What are you thinking when you're helping them? What do they thank you for? And you start your list. And then you start to ask yourself, well, what kind of assignments are always coming to me?
Right.
And that's how you begin to understand, oh, wait, I am making a difference. I am moving the needle.
Do you find it different in different industries in terms of how people are treated or not treated? Is it more prevalent and prominent in certain industries more than others, or is it across the board, specifically with how women are dealt with?
I think that there probably are a few industries which I have not worked in, like fashion, design, where it's a bit more equitable. And I'm sure if there's anybody out there who has worked in those industries, it's like, oh no, women are at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Please let me know.
Yeah.
I've worked primarily in cable, broadcast, and direct satellite. And I will tell you, it is difficult to speak up and be heard as a woman in those industries. They're male dominated.
Even to this day, it still is.
Even to this day, it still is.
So is it something that is, penetrable? Is it something that we are...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely.
You perked up. Those eyes perked right up.
Here's the thing. Anything worth wanting
Yeah.
is worth working hard for. You just need to be strategic. You just need to have a plan.
What was it about this desire, too? You talked about some of the inspirations, but this desire you had to want to play off the experiences you've had, as a successful leader yourself in these, again, very competitive industries, and want to empower and inspire others. Is it also because of things you've experienced yourself that led you to say, having sort of like walk the walk, talk the talk scenario, I've been there, I've done it, I know how to go in and help people and inspire them and maybe guide them in ways that things would be a little bit more successful for them in their careers?
So one of the things that really motivated me, and this was, let me just date myself, this was about 7 years before I ended up retiring. I looked around, I was a senior vice president, I looked at the C-suite, and everybody in the C-suite, I worked in sports television, their name was either Bob, Richard, or what was the other one? Jonathan, but instead of Jonathan, we had a Larry. And they all happened to be between 45 and 55, and they were all Caucasian. And I looked at myself and I said, well, you know, I've got the right skin color, which is a privilege. Let me just acknowledge that. But I happen to be the wrong gender. There is no space for me here. And that's when I started very actively advocating for women in leadership roles and spreading and learning about how to do that better, and then also realizing, wow, I was able to climb the corporate ladder. How did I do it? And that's when I really started coaching informally.
And what were those first moments and experiences like? What were some of those first steps you took to be able to do that, facilitate that?
Well, I realized I needed to get a coaching credential because I was really good at telling people what to do. That is not coaching.
Right.
Coaching is asking the questions that lead people to that aha moment.
Right.
And that's what I needed to learn.
So you were able to do that and focus on that and expand from there. The clients themselves, all different ages, all backgrounds, where do they come from? What are some of the things that they're struggling with as well?
Well, one of the things is I'm not valued in my current role. What's up with that?
Yeah.
And yes, it's really important to understand your priorities, but it's also really important to understand your values. Because ultimately, if your values are not in alignment with the company's values, there's never going to be a connection there. You will honestly never get into the C-suite if that's your intention, and you will never make a big difference there.
Right, exactly. Management styles, too, have changed, haven't they? I've known through a lot of people that I've chatted with who are in leadership roles as well, they've been talking about how even leadership itself has changed. It was at a time where it was the boss up in the ivory tower looking down at everybody, and there was really not a lot of interaction, just, you know, checking in and that's it. But now I think empathy, compassion, listening, allowing people to be heard, showing respect, showing appreciation for even those little things that staff may be doing. And when staff have ideas and things that they want to bring to the table, you know, bring people to the table and let's sit and talk and hash it out and work on it. It's more of this sort of roll up the sleeves, we're all in this together approach, which I think is very beneficial because when any employee feels like they're appreciated, they're respected, they're valued, they're heard, they're going to want to produce more. They feel very invested in the company now all of a sudden, and that results in the bottom line and everything else that, you know, management would want. Tell us a little bit about that, some of the management style changes and how even the definition of leadership has changed in a positive direction.
It definitely is changing. There's the one style that many people still espouse called command control, which is the leader has a vision in their head. It may not be communicated, but they know where they're going, and they will tell their subordinates, here's where we're going. They won't say why. They won't say, this is why you were chosen to support this effort. The other style that is really beginning to gain traction is the Enlightened Leader. Very collaborative, very communicative. They are able to tell each of their employees, here's why you were chosen for this project, here's why what you can contribute, let's all move forward. And that's the Enlightened Leadership style, and that's what's really starting to take hold. And I want to help continue that effort.
What I like about it too is you're enlightened yourself. You're very compassionate, empathetic.
Thank
you. Right, so you have the understanding, which is what I think, and we talked about it on the radio show too, as one of the many things I think that makes you so relatable. Not only having had the experience of been there, done that, walked the walk, been in the fire, been in these situations, but having this real understanding of the human condition, you know, female or male, and understanding that people have fears and concerns and hopes, dreams, and desires. And when I think you approach things from that level and that depth, you're going to get more response, more longer lasting impact. And that really is a central focus of your approach, right?
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. I come from a place of compassion, and many times both men and women are not really compassionate towards themselves, specifically women. Women tend to have a very high standard that they only apply to themselves.
Yeah.
And when they do that, then they start to blame themselves for not being successful. Then they feel guilty. Then they get on the self-denial train, and then they move into burnout.
Yeah.
And that does not serve anyone. So we were talking about this phrase, put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Even I had to learn that. Yeah.
Everybody should learn that.
I had to drive alone through Death Valley to realize you got to put it on yourself first. Because I'm such a helper, caretaker type, raised that way. Always help thy fellow person. But now realize you have to have the oxygen first. Still the desire to help and want to help, but you know.
Yeah, if you're not at 100% and you try and help somebody else, you have depleted resources. How helpful will you really be?
Right.
Right?
Tell us about some of the differences between, and are there, what would be some of the similarities and the differences between coaching women and coaching men?
Well, one, I had an experience just this past week where a man reached out to me and needed to negotiate his salary. And what was so interesting was I used exactly the same protocol that I used with every woman I coach, which is, what have you done for the company? Can you quantify it? What is the metric you can apply there? How much time did you save? How much money did you save? Or how much money did you generate? Can you write a succinct list and then do a little research? Go on, there's so much research right now you can get online, and look and see for your salary, what is the appropriate rate and what's the market, and put that on a one sheet and go in with your deal memo and just say, I'm looking to expand my career development here, and I'm looking for the next step, and I'd like a raise. So honestly, there's not that much difference. It's just that women tend to be a little bit harsher on themselves than men do. Men can kind of...
Yeah, it sort of rolls off a little bit more.
And not all men.
But
not all
not
men.
More, right, exactly. Do you find women, like if they're doing like a freelance project or something, and somebody says, okay, what's your rate? They'll underplay what their rate is. I mean, there's times I've even done that. There's times where I've done gigs, different works within this industry of television, radio, where they said, what's your rate? And I'm like, gee, I don't know, what's the rate? What do I do with it? And you've undercut yourself. And then they'll say, oh, gee, we were going to give you that, but since you said that, well, let's go with that. And I'm like, so let's chat about that,
yes,
Lisa.
so here's the thing. If you're not sure what's fair, one, I would say do your research. You need to do formal and informal research as to what a fair rate is. Then you can also qualify the conversation about, you know what, I really want to deliver for you. In fact, I want to over-deliver.
Right.
So this is my rate on this first project, knowing that if you want to work with me again, then we're going to go industry standard plus. So there's a couple of ways around that, but that is a pretty, especially in television when you're working as a freelancer, you want the job, you want to get in, you know when you do, they'll be thrilled with you, but you have to just lay the ground rules, and you have to communicate. You've got to communicate. Right. And there are scripts that you can use so you don't have to make them up yourself.
Right. Right.
I really believe in scripts.
Access to all of that.
Oh, because I've used them all myself.
So you do role playing?
Yes.
And take us through like a scenario of when you're working with somebody where that is the question that they have, male or female, and they want to negotiate and they want to, step up the game a little bit.
So I always start by offering the scripts and saying, in a situation, if you're asked this, here's something you could say. And I have many, many sentence stems. But one of the things that I always say, rephrase in your own words so you feel comfortable with it. And then as we start to role play, I will actually be super aggressive as I'm playing the role of the hiring manager or the hiring producer. And there'll be fun and laughter, and then I'll say, okay, go and write it all down. Get your iPhone, practice so you have it. Lately, we've been on Zoom because of the pandemic, so you can have your script right there next to your screen if the screen is here. But here's the thing, you don't want to go into any negotiation or any uncomfortable conversation without knowing your points
Right.
and staying on script.
Right.
So I want to give you an example here. One thing that women like to do that men don't, we love all the details.
Yeah.
We love all the details. So if I say to you, Jim, where did you go to dinner on Friday night? And you say, oh, it was this great restaurant. I want to know, what did you have for an appetizer? What did you drink? What did you, what was the decor? I want to know all the details.
Who did you see? Who was there?
Yeah, who did you go out with? In business, all I want to know is, what's the name of the restaurant? Would you go there again?
Right.
So this is the point. Communication in business needs to be to the point,
Yeah.
3 bullet points, and then end with, what is the next action step?
Yeah. So you mean sometimes people over-communicate or over...
Women tend to over-communicate.
Yeah. Is it because they're looking to make a relationship, a connection?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just about doing business and getting it done. So it's just the pure essential details.
Yeah, I've done that. I mean, I've done that as well, where maybe responses to things like emails or texts or voicemails
Right.
are very detailed. All the questions are answered, even probably before they're asked.
Right. That's the producer head.
Yeah, like I spell it all out. And it's really funny when I do that, because I'll have everything laid out, and then the person will respond with the letter K as an OK. And I'll be like, wait a minute, I just wrote the Gettysburg Address, and all I get is a K?
1 K?
I don't even get the O in the K?
Right.
But is it that sometimes less is more?
So I would say, this is a phrase I use a lot, being able to read the room. And sometimes if you're
yes.
not in a room, you have to listen to the tone of voice.
Personalities involved.
Correct.
And,
And there are some people who want a few more details.
Yeah.
But most people in senior roles
They're just-
want just the
yeah, 'cause
points,
there's
and they want to know there was a problem,
time
you
is
fixed
money,
it,
and you gotta,
move on.
You got to move to the next thing.
Right. And you
Yeah.
just need to be mindful and pay attention to that.
Let's talk about, and I'm loving this, let's talk about I'm loving it because I can identify with you because of similar, you and I have had conversations, I'm similar as far as liking to and desirous of inspiring and empowering people and mentoring them and helping them shine and grow, and also having this television background and
Right.
understanding the challenges and needs and demands of that. The programs that you've created, let's talk about some of the actual programs that you offer. If somebody is watching this right now on close-up television, they're like, I like her approach, I like her spunk, I like everything. I want to work with her, you know, she's inspiring me just listening to her talk and share. How have you designed a program that helps people? Do you do initially an assessment?
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
Absolutely. I think that anyone who coaches, if they say, oh, I can coach whatever the issue is,
Yeah.
that's kind of like saying, boy, I can cook any type of meal you want, when actually I just specialize in Italian because I'm Italian descent. Right. So you want to have that interview with a coach, because not everybody works well with everybody else, and we know this with certain bosses
Yeah,
we've
sure.
had where we've
Yeah.
had to modify our behavior.
Yeah.
But
They never modify theirs.
isn't that interesting the way that works out? Because they don't need
They
to.
do, right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But one of the major things I coach around is that salary negotiation.
Yeah.
And I have coached men and women, and I use exactly this same protocol, which is understand how you're driving the needle for the company,
Yeah.
create your deal memo, go in with your script and say, I'm interested in career development, what is my next step, and look at these things I'm doing above my pay grade. Can I be compensated for this? I've done this research that shows me what I can be making out in the market. Can we match that?
What do you say when you do that, and then that person says, you know, you're a dime a dozen. Like we have 50 people that would love this position, you know, that are waiting in line. You should be almost happy that you've got the parking spot and you've got what you're doing, and we cannot. That deflates the bubble that the person has created for themselves. But
Right.
how do you deal with that sort of, you know, not only the no, but also that injection of a little fear that they put in.
Right.
That,
of course.
I got a lot of other people I can call and that will jump in your spot right now.
Right. So no today is just no today. It doesn't mean no tomorrow. But the response to that specific question is, well, of course there are people, but how long will it take you to train them?
Yeah.
How much money will you burn training that person, and how many errors will occur before they come up to speed? I'm here right now, I'm doing this job, I'm doing more than my pay grade. Let's talk about compensation. Let's talk about fairness.
Right.
And if you still get that no, then you ask, what is the next step I need to take? What is the next experience? What is the credential or the certification I need to get that next step on the leadership, up the leadership ladder? So you're asking them, and then you know what, if you just go, well, I can't work for this person, I don't respect them, they're always manipulating me, get your resume out and go start looking for a job.
I would imagine too that if the person, and again working in television we're talking specifically, but can work in any industry, if that person has like a following, they're the face of that company or the face of that product or organization, they're out there. So there's that whole other factor of the branding, the image, the following that's come. That is also part of the negotiation too, that you have all of this love coming from the public at large that you specifically
people internally
have brought in to, and there's this good feeling and vibe with everything. That is part of the package as well.
Okay, did I send you the mind meld to ask this question? So what I'd like to just mention really briefly now is basically there are 4 types of functions. The first one is the rock star. These are the people who always are getting promoted, they're always getting recognized, they can do no wrong. You should make friends with these people, wherever they are.
Right.
The next, I call them the wizards. These are the people in IT, or maybe that woman in accounting who can always get the check cut, or that person who's, at the studio who can always find the extra camera lens or the light, whatever.
You mean like our crew here today?
Our crew here today, who just make the magic, and it's so simple, and they can do it whatever the need is, right? And then you've got the gatekeepers. And we know exactly, these are the people who are sitting in front of the office who are, you definitely want to make friends with these people. And then you've got the decision makers. So the idea is that you want to be recognized by all 4. And so you always show up with added value. You show up professionally, you show up to build trust, to do your job, to make sure that all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and being professional. And then you start to earn respect, which is you start to problem solve.
Right.
And you start to build relationships with each of these 4 different types of individuals so that they start to go, oh, Jim, wow, he's always there. He's always there with an answer. He's always there in a crisis with a solution. That should be our next senior vice president. And this is how it works.
I've heard that often.
Connections.
Have you been making phone calls?
I'm happy to make phone calls for you.
Is this part of the 4-step success program?
It is exactly that. And
Tell us about that.
I have a package just about that, because many times women see their male counterparts getting promoted, and they're not.
Right.
And they're standing and they're doing the work that's driving the business, but for whatever reason, they're not getting that opportunity. Part of that could be because they're not golfing on Friday with their boss, maybe they don't know how to golf, they're not socializing. But there is a way to make sure that you're always what I call stand and deliver, so that your boss knows you're a critical component of their team and that you're going to go above and beyond. There's also and this is the part of it's gaining recognition. In a crisis, if you can offer a sustainable solution, you will be seen as a leader regardless of your title.
Right.
Regardless of your title. And then you'll be remembered. And when you ask to be rewarded, they're much more amenable to keeping you around and rewarding you.
Absolutely. There's also different kinds of leaders, right? Sometimes we always think it's just one kind of leader. And if we're thrust in, because sometimes we are thrust into leadership roles, it isn't just that you've wanted to become one and then you've gone up the ladder and you become one. Osmosis, changing of the guard, death, whatever goes on,
crisis,
you can be thrust now into
Correct.
being the leader.
Correct.
But there's different types of leaders, right? There are leaders who are, okay, let's go, rah, 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 you can do it. And then there's the understated sort of leader. I've always been described, just to use myself in this picture, as an understated leader by a lot of people. I don't come in as the, let's go, come on. I'm much more inspiring in much more of an understated way. There are different types of leaders, right?
Yes, absolutely. And just in talking with you, a few times we've had conversations, the trust that you generate and the respect that you share, you're the type of leader I would say anybody would be lucky to work for. Because the rah-rah, for some people it really works. It's like, oh, you're dead, keep standing, come on, let's go.
You rock.
That doesn't, that's when you burn people out. And you need to treat people, every leader should understand, they're only as strong as the weakest member on their team. You cannot burn people out.
So
We've seen that repeatedly. It does not work.
Right. Come on, let's go. Produce.
Right.
That can, absolutely turn people off. There's a career success map too, right?
Yes.
You look excited about that. Tell us about that.
Well, so I call this the Northstar Query. And the reason I call it that is because we all need to be really clear about our intention about what we're trying to do in the workspace and why we want to step into a role of leadership. Because quite honestly, it's not really about the title or the money. I know the reason that I wanted to get into a leadership role is I saw so much bad business occurring. Right. People making decisions who did not have all the information they needed to make that decision. So the Northstar Query starts with 3 simple questions. What do you want? Why do you want it? And what do you need to do to get it?
Yeah.
And so it's that second question about what is the deeper motivation? It's, I didn't want to make more money because I wanted to buy more Louboutin shoes, which I don't even wear anyway, or buy more leather jackets or get a bigger car. I wanted to buy a home for my family.
Right.
So once you understand what that motivation is, then you can show up every day, even in the hard times, and keep forging forward. But you have to be really clear about, okay, what other additional information do I need? What teaching do I need? What experience do I need? What contacts do I need? And that goes back to those 4 types of people. Make friends with the rock stars, the wizards, and the gatekeepers, because they will all help you get to the decision makers who will actually recognize and reward you.
Which is the key, right? And that's, sometimes it's hard to get to them, right?
It can be very impossible.
You think you can go right in and just knock on that door.
And you don't want to, but sometimes you are thrown in. I'll tell a very short story, and I'm going to really abbreviate this. It's the World Series. It's Yankees Mets. Derek Jeter, I'm really dating myself, pops.
Is this 2000?
Yes!
The World Series. And
pops
Yankees won.
Second inning, pops the home run, and it's like, that's the shot that needs to be in the spot. And I go in right before we're in football, this MLB spot's going to air in football, and he's not in the spot. And then I get a tap on the shoulder. They want to see you in master control. That's where all the executives are.
Yeah. Looking at all the screens, watching.
Oh my God. And I walk down the hallway and I'm walking the Green Mile. I can smell my career going up in smoke. And I get to the door and I'm hit by a cloud of smoke, because this is when everybody was smoking inside. And I hear this voice in the corner, and I can't see inside because it's all the nicotine haze, all the nicotine haze. And I hear this, Miss Gillette, did you see the spot that's running in football today? And I said, yes, sir, and there's a problem with it, and I'm going to go fix it. And I hear, right. And the whole room just kind of exhaled because I was about to get my head cut off for something that I hadn't done wrong. This happens a lot, but you've just got to, they just want to know there's a problem, you fixed it, move on. That's all senior management wants to know.
I imagine too that part of that, experiences like that, you need to have mental toughness. You need to develop
so glad you're talking
mental
about
toughness,
this.
Right?
Yes.
And mental toughness might not be in the way that people are thinking about it. You just go and you just sort of spout off anything. You're just like, oh, there's a whole control aspect to this. There's a whole way that you can...
There's a focus.
Yeah, focus. Tell us about the importance of developing mental toughness so you can survive smoky master control rooms like those.
And not have your lungs burn out. Yeah. So it really starts with, we have to acknowledge when we're triggered. We have to acknowledge this, because sometimes
emotional intelligence.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And you have to say, you know what? You have to talk to yourself and say, anybody who was talked to that way, treated to in that way, has a right to feel triggered. And then once you can say that, you can go, okay, so how do I want to respond strategically in this moment, instead of react by bursting into tears? Full disclosure, I have burst into tears. I have. And I've gotten myself out of the situation, but I learned this through my own trial and error. So you have to be able to say, yeah, that's triggering, but how do I want to respond? And what is the thing that I can do right now based on my experience and my expertise that is going to resolve this problem so we can move forward? I'm not going to ignore the fact that I was offended or I was dismissed. I'm going to remember that, but I'm not going to react to it in that moment.
Yeah,
I'm going to respond strategically so I can move forward. And it's repeatedly doing that, to keep the focus and go, what is my intention here? To make sure the job gets done so that I can go home and not have to think, oh, I just melted down today.
Because some people would take a situation like that personally.
Correct.
Some would react and want to fight verbally.
Or flee.
The person, right? Or pass the buck, the blame, even though you were solving a problem that somebody else caused. They could have said, you could have said, well, I wasn't the one.
It wasn't my fault.
Marty, it was Marty. Marty put the wrong tape in. And, but that now.
Exactly.
And
doesn't
then they would
matter.
say, well, you're passing the buck. And
you're here, you fix it.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And some people do that a lot. Well, they want to take fingerprints off, even though.
Correct.
So
and you remember those people.
Yeah.
And you don't trust those people, but you have strategies for how you're going to navigate around those people.
Part of that is also circumventing conflict, right?
Oh,
yes. And sometimes that's easier said than done based on personalities, male or female.
Especially when you're dealing with someone who's superior, someone who's very senior to you, or just even one step up. I use a script, and again, it's customizable for every client, but you want to start by saying to that individual, what do you think needs to happen next? What do you want to see happen next? You make it all about them. And then your next response is, I am here to help. I am here to help you fix this. I want to fix this. And then we can work together to do this. So it's the you, what do you need? What do you want? I am here to help. Let's work together to fix this. And that builds rapport. And that tends to take the heat out of any conflict. Now, sometimes I had a boss who would go to volume 11 with no provocation. And that was just a blank face, and I'll fix it. And then I would remove myself, and I'd go fix it. So you have to know who you're speaking to and watch their patterns and learn what works best for them.
The other thing, too, I know that you work with people on is coaching them to effectively communicate. Now, we're talking about ways to react and effectively react to things, but just everyday communication so that you're seen and you're heard and you're understood. People crave being heard and appreciated and seen. So how do we go about achieving that?
Well, so it works two ways, and this is a coaching technique which I think everybody should learn and use. And it's called
Write this down.
Acknowledge and validate. And whether you've been triggered, you want to acknowledge, oh my gosh, that's triggering. When somebody talks to me that way, I feel horrible. Of course I have a right to feel horrible. And then you can move on. But when someone else is melting down, again, you want to acknowledge them, acknowledge they're at a pain point, and then say, how can I help you? And it's very similar to how you circumvent conflict. It really is the same process. But you want to be coming with that value added of being a problem solver, and then knowing exactly how to maneuver around certain circumstances, or have go-to people in IT or in finance who can help you resolve problems because you've helped them in turn.
What about somebody who, we all know people that are very good at what they do. They're very talented.
Mm-hmm.
They are, they're on time, if not early. They're company people, team players, really solid workers. I mean, salt of the earth. But they're not good at negotiation, the pivoting, the game of it, the flexibility, the reading people, and they're just very good at the thing that they do, and they love it, and they'll stay all night until it's done. But that other element, they don't feel skilled or comfortable with.
It's comfort.
You can work with people too to help them develop that comfort, to not only just be great at the thing that they love doing, but all the politics and everything else that goes on around your ability to have the ability to do what you love. Appreciate that and learn about how to deal with that as well, right?
Right. So it starts with, again, knowing your expertise, what you're good at, and being able to talk about it. And this takes role playing. And it also takes, there are certain phrases you can use, scripts that will roll off your tongue, but it's saying, oh, you know what? Like, I knew I was very good at planning. I'm very good at being able to set up processes and systems and then put in safety checks along the way so that if there are errors, they're caught and corrected. Everybody needs to know what they're really good at. And I have one, I call it the five-step process. And what it is, it's your name and your title, but then it's the people you help, the problems you solve, the results you deliver. I had to say that right to camera. And so many people never think about talking about themselves in that way.
I know,
but this is what's so essential in business, is you have to be able to say, this is what I do, this is what I deliver, this is how I can help you grow the business. And it's just being able to, it's being rehearsed. It's like, what's your phone number? What's your street address? We all did that as a little kid. We all had to learn that. It's the same thing that we're doing here. And you have to give yourself permission to go, I am an expert. I do know these things. And that's inner critic work.
Right. Those self-limiting beliefs.
Assumptions, interpretations, and the inner critic.
Right. Some we've absorbed from others saying these things.
Correct.
And some we've applied to ourselves.
Correct.
And you work with people on that as well.
Well, this is the basis of all coaching.
And have you dealt with that yourself over the years too?
Yes. Why, yes. Why, yes, I have.
Is that a yes? Can I hear a yes?
That is a big yes.
We all have.
Yeah, well, and some people haven't, and they're still caught up with it. Right? They're still hearing that little voice, whatever the message is. You're not smart enough, you're not bright enough, you're not talented enough, you're not old enough, you're not young enough, whatever.
Right, yeah.
You got to identify the not enough message, and then you start working through it.
There's something else, too, that you work on called code switching. What is that about?
Well, we talked about it just a little bit about the dinner conversation, about where did you go to dinner. But one, everybody who wants to excel in business needs to understand the specific vocabulary of their industry and understand, I mean, you know, in broadcast, we have a very specific, like, possible 20.
Right.
Which means, like, this could take like 5 more hours to deliver this piece. But possible 20 was like, we really don't know how long this is going to take us. But in terms of code switching,
a lot of ASAP too.
Yeah, exactly.
ASAP, hit the post.
Right, or do you? I think I can say this. FUBAR. Are you familiar with?
Sure. Yeah. Right.
Beyond all reason. Yes. Okay.
There'll be a quiz later.
Yeah. Go to the website. It's all there.
It's all there.
But in terms of code switching, it is really being able to say, you know what, when I'm dealing with this person, they just want metrics. They just want to know, okay, how many viewers, did it deliver on time, and what did it cost? Someone else who's more creative might go, well, like, what colors did you choose? How does that relate to the overall brand? And what did you do to the logo? So you need to be able to, and this is how you really need to be able to read the room. Here we are back to this. Paying attention, listen to how people are speaking, watching their body language. I have a whole training on this. But it's being able to interpret what is going to land with each individual, because it is like speaking a specific language to each person, although we're all speaking English. But certain words resonate.
Stick out.
Yeah, exactly. And you just have to pay attention and know with this person, it's all going to be about dollars. With this person, it's all going to be about the emotion of the piece you just produced.
So why is this talent essential specifically for women in the workplace?
Because we love to over-explain, and in business, time is money. So get to the point, deliver your points, and if you need to give more information, they will ask you. And for everybody out there who's a woman listening, never explain your decisions unless you're asked. You don't need to explain why you made a certain decision.
Is that something that people fall in the trap of doing?
I think a lot of women, when they come into a leadership role and they're relatively new, they will give their boss, I did XYZ because of A, B, C, D. No. I did XYZ, here's the results. Done, and you're out.
We're talking a lot about, formatics, strategizing, planning,
yes,
programs, but then sometimes which can be very helpful because they say run with it, gut instinct. How do you coach something like gut instinct and
I love this
valuing
question.
it and appreciating it and running with it when you know it's going to be for the benefit of all?
So this is a training that I created, and it's not mine originally, but I just customized it.
You went with your gut instinct?
I went with my gut instinct, and then I tried it out on various people, various clients, and also colleagues, and I was like, how did that land with you? And refined it. But you start out by saying, if I'm making this decision, are my thoughts scattered or calm? What are my emotions? Are they confused or clear? What does my body feel like? The somatics, which we haven't really talked about, but what is my body doing? Does my body feel like I'm in danger, or does it feel like I'm safe?
To recognize those things.
Just do the check through. And then most important, you can say the word on a spiritual level, on a values level. How is this in alignment, honoring this request or working for this company? Is that in alignment with my values, or is this dishonoring my values? And where we have to start always is, what are your highest values? For me, I know communication, transparent communication, integrity, fairness, super important to me. Creativity and adventure. Adventure, really important.
Those are mine too,
But I think everybody really needs to do a deep dive and say, what is most important? And if I'm not honoring my values, then I know this is not the place for me to forge a career.
Because sometimes we're living somebody else's dream, right?
Correct.
And we realize that the values that we have are not necessarily matching what we
really
see
resonates.
As going on around us, right? And you come to a point. It's amazing. I can't tell you how many friends I have personally who they've worked in corporate, did their thing, made very good money, but then reached a point where it wasn't matching their values. And now they are licensed massage therapists.
Oh, okay.
Nurses.
Awesome.
They need to really have one-on-one with people and help them and help them heal, help them, be happy, whatever it may be. And they don't look back. And most people in the beginning would have said, you left that job with the benefits and the car and the beautiful desk. And they'll be like, yes, and it was scary in the beginning. And my family told me, what, am I crazy? But I'm happier now than ever, is what they all say.
Right. Because they're actually making a difference.
That's what they say.
They're actually giving back. They're actually helping other people.
And sometimes you have to make that choice, right? You're faced with, you're not being fulfilled yourself. You're just, what it's interesting, and this leads me to, just in terms of, we like to make these evergreen, but this will be something historic that we'll always be looking back at, and that's, of course, the pandemic and everything we've gone through. And in recent news reports, they've been talking about how, I think it's like 40% of specifically Americans are taking a look at their careers, their lives, and reevaluating what they've been doing, who they've been doing it for, what has been the reward, where is the satisfaction, fulfillment, if at all, coming from. And a lot of them are walking away from a lot of different careers, different jobs, and they are looking to do things now that have a deeper, greater impact, and also inspire people, and also fill their heart and soul more than maybe when they were just punching the clock and again, serving something greater and living out somebody else's dream. Kind of interesting that you know, you're hearing people say that it took what we've experienced to say, you know what, I had to be thrust into that to be reminded of the things that matter most in my life, the family, my happiness. We're here for a short time. Tell us about some of that. That's really kind of exciting, actually, in a way.
Yeah, it really is. I think you have to know your deeper purpose. And so many people go, I'm not sure what my purpose is.
That, yeah.
Well, it's okay if your purpose is to be happy and to take care of your family and to love and support the people you love. That's a great purpose. That is an awesome purpose. I know for me, my purpose is I want to communicate with women and say, the world needs your leadership now. And I want to communicate with men too to say, empower your daughters to go out and step into that leadership role. Because the world, we're in crisis right now. We got some big problems right now. So we need, we need diverse people in leadership right now. And let's face it, gender is the greatest diversity. So I work with women, but I think for everyone, just think about how you can make it better, how you can make a difference. And I think that's what we were talking about, people leaving their corporate jobs because they're coming to a point where they're like, this is not, it's not about the race for money. It's not about the bigger car, the bigger house. It's about what is my legacy that I'm leaving behind that I actually made it better for everybody coming after me.
Exactly right. And it's a beautiful thing when that happens. I mean, when you come to the realization, there is the fear of making that transition and taking that leap. But, you know, if you don't, you'll never know.
Correct. And how horrible when you're on your deathbed to go, oh, I should have spent more time at the office.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
No. I heard this great expression, which I've been using for the last couple of weeks, which is, if you feel fear, trepidation, but excitement, keep going, you're headed in the right direction.
You know, there's an analogy I use in this industry, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. Say, for example, it's somebody that's starring in a Broadway play, and they're feeling, now they've been doing this work for decades, but they are really excited, very passionate about this particular project. So with all the training, all the skill, all the awards and accolades, they're still feeling butterflies. And for some people, they'd be like, oh, you must be scared, fearful. No. And what I have found, because there's times I'll take on a project and be in the limelight, and people will say, oh, you got this, you've done it before. Like, yeah, but my stomach is curdling. And they're like, oh my God, why, how could you be so scared or nervous? So it's not scared or nervous. It's that I love it so much and I'm so passionate about it that I want to give it my all and I want it to turn out well. I want to strive for excellence. And that when you lose those butterflies, when you take on something and you no longer have that angst, those butterflies in the stomach flying around, it's time to make a change. You've lost the passion. So embrace those butterflies because they're actually telling you still love what you do.
That is exactly right. And it's a motivation. It's an attraction to go further, to do more, to be better, to make that change.
One of the things you talked about that I love to do, and I think I'm lucky maybe or fortunate, that I can do it, and I've actually helped other people by being the one in the room who has done it almost for them, is the reading of the room. Because I've been with people who maybe intuitively aren't great at reading the room, and I've guided them and say, let me just give you a little bit about this situation or this one or that. Oh, I didn't see that, you're right. And it saved them from catastrophe sometimes too. Developing that skill, if it's not inherent, to read that room. That's fascinating. Tell us more about it.
So
how you can do it.
I would tell you that most women are very empathetic, and they're also empaths. They can walk into the room and they can like identify the one person who didn't sleep or the one person who didn't eat breakfast. It's just kind of how they're hardwired, and it's partly the brain and it's partly socialization.
That's very true. I've had situations where,
but also men
I don't
can
like
do
that guy. He's bad news,
and
then it turned out 6 months later, he became.
Yeah, he is.
Trouble.
But men also have this ability, and it's just, again, like I talked about, checking in with, are my thoughts confused? What are my feelings? And then really important to do, like, am I feeling tension anywhere in my body? Because that's a really good indicator. And then, where are my values with any of this? In conflict or in agreement, in alignment? Yeah.
I like the fact that you really stressed, too, when we talked about it, maybe we can expand on it, owning your expertise.
So important.
So, again, oftentimes we don't even, we're such a busy world now, technology and everything, we don't take time to even think of things like that. What's one of the first things that somebody could even do today to take that first step forward to owning your own expertise?
Well, it's just sitting down with a piece of blank paper and just asking yourself, what do people ask me for help with? Right? And then just think about, what are those assignments that you're always getting? And then think about what your function is at work and how you're always kind of stepping in to help or direct. And it has to be an honest assessment. And for most women, they're like, oh, but that comes so easily to me. Everybody could do that. No.
Not necessarily.
No, they keep coming to you for that specific skill set. So you have to be able to, in a very clear-eyed way, without any judgment, look at what you're good at. And, you know, mileage helps. I have a lot of mileage on me. Let me just acknowledge that. So I've had a number of years to really say, oh yeah, I'm really good at strategy. I'm really good at negotiation. I am really good at setting up systems. I am really good at processes. I'm really good at quantifying things. And you just have to be able to say, here's what I like to do. This is a talent I have. And this is how I developed it into a skill. And, you know, in 5 minutes, we're not going to give the full solution. However, it's a lifelong process, and you have to really know what you're good at.
We've got a little speed round.
Okay.
Yeah, speed round time, folks. And coaching topics. What is the likability liability? Now, most people would not put those together, that there would be a liability to likability. But there can be, right? There
absolutely can be. You know, when a woman is in a leadership role and she's really passionate, oh my gosh, she's so aggressive.
Yeah.
She gets a little angry. Oh, what a huge. She gets a little harsh. Oh my God, she's so mean. So there's a certain expectation about women because we're women. We're seen as caregivers. This started, you know, at least 100,000, like 1 million years ago.
Caves involved.
Yes, exactly. There were some caves involved. But, you know, really what the thing is we have to understand as women in leadership roles, we are held to a higher standard. We're held to a different set of behavior. And we just have to navigate that and negotiate that. So I always tell all of my clients, and I've done this all, and I tell them not to. Never let anybody see you sweat or cry or curse or raise your voice in anger. And I have done that all, but I live to survive. So specifically, the likability liability is stopping yourself from asking, because if I ask for more money, they won't like me. If I give them a directive and say, I need you to perform this job in this way and check back with me when you're done, and be very clear about it, oh, they won't like me. And it's all in the tone of voice, and it's all in how you ask, and it's in the practice of it.
So you can work too hard to try to get people to like you.
And that's
where
not
it's
an
a detriment.
Yeah, correct. Especially being female.
Somebody will say, are you just trying to be liked?
Yeah, it's a detriment. Can be
a tough. We talked again about the mental toughness, but the ability to say no doesn't always come easy. And I wouldn't say that I've learned the Death Valley thing. I've learned drove alone through Death Valley and self-awareness and all. Very impactful. Not recommended in August in 100-degree heat, but learning, I don't even know if I say no still, if I gotten to know, just like at this moment I'm not able to because I have, I can't run over with a bucket to put your fire out right now because
Correct.
I have a flame that I have to get to right now.
Correct.
I will be
there.
there.
You go.
I will be there
Boom.
with my bucket to help you because that's in my nature. But
The
I
flame
have
has
to
to-
tend
yes.
to this flame first, or it's going to
Right.
be a brush fire. And not everybody likes that. Not everybody, some people do who understand and appreciate that. But the ones who always think that you're going to be there all the time with the bucket first before you tend to yours.
Right.
You can't go through
Right.
life like that. You have to learn to say. So I don't know if I'm at the no. I'm at the, let's see what will happen or transpire, and if it can happen. If not today, maybe tomorrow. But
Right.
So still a work in progress a little bit there.
Yeah, I think for most people, but a script that I use a lot with my clients is, I would love to do this for you, but I don't have the bandwidth and I don't want to disappoint you.
I like the bandwidth idea.
Now, how can anybody possibly argue that?
Right.
There's no argument there. But in order to get there, to use that script, we talked about the Northstar Query, which is, what do I want to do in my career? Why do I want to do that? And what do I need to accomplish that? So if somebody, if you came to me and said, Lisa, let's go and do XYZ, and I thought, well, XYZ is not going to help me get to where I want to go. What I'm trying to do now is write my first book, which is on mental toughness. And the muse was not showing up last week. So if you said to me, hey, Lisa, let's go do another shoot in New York, and I'd be like, that is not going to help me write the book. Jim, I would love to do this, but I don't have the bandwidth right now, and I don't want to disappoint you.
Yeah.
You're going to go, oh, she wants to help me, but she can't right
She
now.
won't be able to give me 100%, right?
And there's no argument with that. I have like a whole list of responses, but the idea is, know what your priority is and be able to quickly do that assessment of, will honoring this request help me get to my priority? If the answer is no, then you need to say no. And when you say no, you're going to feel good because you're working on your priority, not somebody else's.
Another area we touched upon briefly that I'd love to expand on in the speed round is the emotional intelligence. I love when I'm
buzzword
on
right now,
flights
right?
or waiting in airports, all these books on it. I think I've always been, it's funny, when I read these books, I'm like, I already know that. I got that.
Because you worked through that.
But I love reading it because it's reinforcing what I already know. So some people, when they hear that phrase emotional intelligence, they might think IQ and just leave it at IQ.
It's not.
It's a completely different realm. Tell us about the importance of being aware of it and really expanding your understanding of it and using it in ways that can be very positive.
So emotional intelligence is incredibly important right now. I rely on a lot of metrics and stats, and Harvard Business Review just did a study in 2020 that said one of the hallmarks that all successful business leaders have is emotional intelligence. So this is the number one trait. And literally what that means is the ability to understand and interpret our own emotions and be able to autocorrect. And the autocorrect is, okay, I'm not going to react, I want to respond. So that is really self-awareness, not self-consciousness. Right. Self-awareness of, oh, when I'm in a situation like this, I'll get triggered. Let me have a couple strategies to deal with it. That's the self-awareness. But emotional intelligence also includes your ability to understand how you impact and influence others. And if you don't understand that, if you always come on like gangbusters and other people are a little bit taken aback, you're not going to succeed. So it's the component of understanding the self and understanding how you impact and influence others. And it's really essential. And there's so many books out. It's a very big topic now, and it's awesome because this is what's leading to enlightened leadership style versus move away from command control.
Right, which we talked about a little bit earlier. And also with emotional intelligence, being cognizant of and aware of other people's emotions and struggles and where they're coming from. And before you go lunge, maybe there's something horrific that just happened 10 minutes ago before they showed up in the door.
Right.
And maybe sort of understanding maybe there's a different approach, maybe that you forgot that they're going through something rough that happened. And maybe you should make a little bit of an adjustment just to work with them at that time to help to continue get the best from them, but not overtax the situation. So being cognizant of your own as well as others, which is the full picture, which is, that's cool stuff. I mentioned in the introduction DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes.
You do coach on that topic. And tell us about that, because all of that right now, there are people who say the phrase, it's in the news, but it's something that shouldn't just be a fad or the flavor of the month. It should be in our lives all the time.
Should be, yeah.
Tell us about this.
So, as we mentioned, and we've been talking about it, we have some really extreme challenges today in business, and we need to create sustainable results, and we need to come up with solutions that are going to help us get there. And many of the ways we've been doing business, many of the ways we've been living are no longer working. And so the way to come to solutions that actually can solve our problems, we need diverse voices. That's the diversity part of it. And the equity is just acknowledging, okay, there is not an equity between when women ask for a raise versus when men ask for a raise. A man could look at a number and go, I can't take that, you're insulting me. If a woman did that, oh no, she'd shoot herself in the foot, because there's an expectation about what she's supposed to be doing. So the equity is to just really be mindful and ensure that everybody gets a seat at the table and is treated equally. And the inclusion is bringing in all the ideas, all the different thoughts, all the different experience to the table to come up with the best solution so that all voices are heard before a decision is made. I'm actually speaking on that in September, and I'm speaking about gender bias, because that is the first diversity, males and females. That's the most obvious, right? Second is skin color, third is age. And so it's really essential right now, because again, the old ways are no longer serving us. We need new solutions. We've got to get more ideas, and the way to do that is to bring in a bigger survey pool. We've got to get everybody in.
Exactly, bringing people to the table, right? And just getting all the voices and listening to them too, not just bringing them, but listening to them.
It can't be for, what is it called, face value? It's got to be real.
Just for the show of it.
Correct.
Okay, check that off. We did that.
And which happens in corporate a lot.
Yeah, we did that. See, we look good. That's part of the branding.
No, we did good.
We'll have billboards on the highway showing that we did it.
That
doesn't. Then you have lines, angry mobs at the door if you don't follow up. Keynote speaking, workshops. You have so many different things that you offer. Let's talk about some of that. I know you love, and now that things, again, we sort of evergreen all of this, but you're going to be able to get out there and get on those stages and work with people, and you really enjoy that, don't you?
So I would tell you, I realize that speaking is the way for me to get the message out to larger groups of women, because I can ask women in the audience to interact with each other, to create a connection, to build their network, and to go, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one who feels this way. I'm not the only one who's got a boss who isn't really helping me grow in my career. I'm not the only one working in a company whose values don't align with mine. Time to get my resume out and go look for another job. I'm not alone. And this is what's, this is what I find with speaking, is I can get my message out to more people, and it's amplified because I've got a group of women in the room who are talking to each other about, she said we could do this. She did it. We're going to go do this. It's that, we're in this together. And so I will be speaking in, first stop is Barcelona in November 2021, and then Paris, March of 2022, and Toronto in May of 2022, all for STAR Global Conference. It's a women's conference about women's empowerment and leadership, so I'm excited to do that.
Congratulations.
And then in May, I've got my book coming out on mental toughness, and I don't have a title yet, but it will be about mental toughness and how you can develop it and build it and use it and still maintain a very big heart. It's not about losing your heart or your empathy.
What's the writing process like for you?
Well, sometimes the muse shows up, and sometimes when I'm beating myself up and my inner critic is barking in my ear, she stays away. So I want to just talk briefly about the inner critic. We all have that voice. It starts anywhere between the ages of 3 to 5. There's some experience you have that triggers it, and you say you will never let yourself be embarrassed by that again, and you keep yourself safe and small. And you know what? When you're safe and small, your greatness does not shine into the world. So it's time to silence the inner critic so that your muse can show up and you can participate fully. And I'm a work in progress. We all are.
We all are.
None of this is one and done.
No, absolutely. You mentioned a little bit about somatics and wanted to expand a little bit on that too.
Yeah.
Just let you get that in there. Tell us about that.
So I've been reading more and more about it, and there are a couple of sociologists and psychologists and psychiatrists who write on this topic, and I'm very new to it, but literally, we store trauma in our body. And many times it'll be forefront of our mind, but the earlier childhood trauma, like when the inner critic showed up, that gets stored in the body. Many of us have painful necks, bad backs. Necks are the ability to think clearly, backs are the ability to move forward, and we'll get these aches and pains when we really stress out. And that is truly not paying attention to what's going on in our body. So if you can ask yourself, is there a certain place in my body where I am stressed, where I'm feeling the tension? And then go and get a massage, go and take a hot bath, go and lay flat on the floor, put your legs up the wall. Just acknowledge that we have this physical entity in this lifetime. That's awesome, it's great, all the experiences we have, but we need to take care of it. We need to acknowledge that trauma is stored there and we need to release it. So that's the little bit about somatics, and that is my next big learning curve.
Do you do that? Do you do yoga, breathing,
Oh my goodness.
meditation?
Yes.
That's very big now too. People
Yeah.
are looking for ways to deal with the extraordinary stress
Correct.
that we all have that in this ramped up society. That's really important too. Finding balance, male or female, finding balance in your life, which a lot of people have been, again, looking at in the last several months. That's essential, right? And you've been able to do that too?
Yeah,
Try to maintain
I
it?
work on it all the time. One thing that I didn't mention that I think would be really helpful is that when we get triggered, we tend to hold our breaths. We don't even notice it.
Yeah.
And our most primitive brain, that's the limbic brain right back here, kicks in, and that's the fight, flight, freeze response, right? That's when all the chemicals, it's the adrenaline and the cortisol go rushing through our bodies, and we just immediately go into fight, flight, or freeze. So what you want to do is just take a breath. It lets your brain know, reset, and then you can move up into the higher brain, the prefrontal cortex, and actually use your reasoning ability, use a little strategy. So breath, I call it the magic reset. And if anyone does yoga who's listening to this, Ujjayi breath, just practice that. If you don't practice yoga, 3 deep breaths to get up into your prefrontal cortex, where you can actually think about how you want to respond instead of just reacting.
Let's do 3 deep breaths now.
You're just awesome.
It's incredible, isn't it?
You're just awesome. I love that. You're so present.
My father has always said, when people say something nice to you, ask them to put it in writing and address it management. That's a good tip for you.
Love it.
That's his Irish,
So practical.
Irish humor.
So practical.
That's it. The breathing, just right there. And there's other things, we'll have her back. We'll talk more about things like EFT tapping and all these different things.
I love that. So
that's,
important.
If you're in traffic and if road rage is happening, there's different points where you can tap.
Correct.
And I mean, you could be in a very high stress meeting
and
you could be like under the table just tapping and like, okay, there's different trigger points, different things that.
Correct.
So there are things that one can do
to calm yourself down,
and you can
regulate your system.
One of the things too that I find about this, and I noticed this during the radio show, is and it's just being enhanced here as you're in our studio with us, you thoroughly are all in. You thoroughly are all about this. You thoroughly want to help people, and you want to inspire them and leave the room better than you found it, which I can relate to. And you thoroughly love this work. You have realized that the work you were doing before in television, you were meant for that. skilled, excellent at it, did it, left your impact there, and got the accolades. But you were really meant to do what you're doing now. It's in your DNA. It's a part of the essence of who you are.
Yeah.
And it's not work that you just want to do. You have to do this work, don't you?
I am very drawn to it, and I'm very driven by it. And one of the challenges that I face right now is I will go 7 days a week, and so I just recently took 2 whole days off,
That's
which was
something I've had to learn too.
right. We all need to learn that.
So you got to take that time to breathe. The world won't stop if you jump off the train a little bit.
Correct.
The train won't keep going if you jump off.
Right.
The train will be there.
And you can get back on.
Right.
But this is about putting the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Right.
So besides the water, besides the nourishment, besides the sleep, besides being out in nature to
Very
connect
big,
with things that are
yeah.
bigger than us,
Yeah.
there's also the self-reflection. And I don't mean the self-conscious
Yeah.
beating up.
Right.
It's the
Or
self-reflection.
the narcissistic either.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But that place where it's like, what did I do that helped? What do I want to do better?
Right.
How can I do better? Yeah.
It's cool stuff, isn't it?
It's all about, trying to be enlightened, and we're never going to be there in this lifetime, but that doesn't mean we have to stop trying. Yeah.
Is some of it therapy as much as it is coaching too?
I would tell you, when I get a call from a client who's like, oh my gosh, I just got 30% more than I thought I was going to get. I just got that promotion. I just resigned today, and now I'm going to start my own business. I get this, I can feel it in my body right now. I get excited.
Yeah, yeah.
I get excited by that. It's,
Yeah.
it's
what propels you to keep doing what you're
yeah,
doing.
correct. It feeds me. It's really exciting.
Do you have maybe just a quick generic success story of where you worked with somebody who was dealing with this or struggling with this issue and was able to take them then from point A to point B, and it's working out really well for them?
So I still work with her on occasion. She started out, I live in Los Angeles, there are many major studios there, and she worked in animation, and she worked for a very large studio that was really bureaucratic. She came to me when she was trying to figure out about, I don't like what I'm doing, and we went through an assessment, we did values, we did skill sets, and she actually ended up getting a job offer at another major studio. And she said, it's a higher level, I'm an executive now, but it's kind of more of the same. And then she landed for a very large entity that they're doing 6 movies about blue people. And I noticed we're both wearing blue.
Yeah, even
But
the
these are-
logo's blue.
Yeah, but these are people who are blue-skinned, and she's in a creative role. And so she went from a place of, I'm not really thrilled with what I'm doing, got into management, made some changes, made a difference there for her team, and then ended up in a creative role, which is where she ultimately wanted to be. And she was dealing with inner critic, and she was dealing, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, there were many, many questions, but the process that we were able to go through was a step-by-step evaluation where she could actually go, oh, I am good at this.
Right.
Oh, I do this well. She could own her expertise. And once she got there, it's not like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm perfect, I never have to work on myself again. No, we're human beings. We're always striving to be better, or hopefully we are. And she could keep going and excel. And now she's in a very senior role, driving creative and really making a difference for her team.
And loving it.
Yeah, and
she's found her
feeling as though she's making a difference, not just for her team, but for the company she works for, and for people who are going to see these 6 movies.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm not going to mention names
No,
because I'm
but,
very discreet about that, but yeah, we're all going to be in a movie theater in about 2 years watching all of this.
You heard it here first. Stay tuned.
They're all blue, just
what
like
a teaser.
us.
That was a trailer. That's funny. It's again, like I said, it's obvious you thoroughly are all in, and you love this work, and it's truly a passion for you. And I encourage folks to make connection. I love the name Big Sky Coaching and Consulting. When I hear Big Sky, when I first heard it when we did the radio shows on Close Up Radio, it's just so positive. It's non-limiting. It's not claustrophobic.
Correct.
Like if you're limited and you're thinking in a box,
Exactly.
you're thinking of a big sky, and I think of a blue sky, and I think of it over a wide expanse of ocean with a tide and all. Is that part of the thinking of blue sky?
So,
Or big sky?
well, it does bring
It's
into the
all-
image
yeah.
the blue sky
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
clarity. And so the idea is when you see the big picture, you will find the opportunity.
That's right.
And many times what we tend to do is, especially as women, because we're told, keep your head down, do your work, don't raise your hand, you will be acknowledged.
Don't make
and
waves
Don't
and-
make waves, don't be loud, don't be too much or not enough. And here's the thing, in corporate, you have to be able to speak to your expertise, as I mentioned before, and you've asked me about that. But you also need to be able to take your head up and do a 360 and see what's out there, because there is someone out there who will need your help, who will need exactly what it is you bring to the table. And if your head is down like this, you're not going to see that, and you won't be the difference that makes the change, or be the change that makes the difference. You need to see the big picture. And many times in coaching, it's just getting clients to that one next step where they get the wider view and they go, oh, there's an opportunity. Let me pursue that. And that was the idea behind Big Sky Coaching and Consulting. And I do consult because I still like to tell people what to do. I do. I'm just strategic. That's how I roll.
That's part of it,
That's how I roll.
That's it. Well, you're amazing, Lisa.
Oh, well, thank you,
This is
Jim.
really, truly a delight and a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
And to expand on some of these topics and to enlighten our viewers on close-up television that there are opportunities, there are these phenomenal opportunities to be able to work with somebody like you, have an opportunity to assess, come out with a program, because I know it's not really a cookie cutter approach, right? It's not
It is
one size fits all.
It cannot be.
You customize things for
Correct.
everybody. And to that if you're stuck, or if you just want to find a way to maybe live a little more happier, fulfilled, satisfying life, and to still produce and create and enjoy, which we all want to do.
Yeah.
You have helped many people get to that point. And what I love about it too is when you give, you get, and it's a cycle.
Correct.
So you're being enriched as you're enriching the lives of others, and there's nothing better than that. So I would suggest you connect with Lisa. This was a pleasure, and thanks so much for joining us here in the studio.
Thank you, sir.
I wish you continued success.
Thank you.
And we hope to have you back soon. It'll be a pleasure. And good luck with all these exciting things coming up.
I'm excited. I can't wait to get on a plane.
Zoom.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
To learn more about our special guest, Lisa Gillette, visit this website. For Close-Up Television and Radio, I'm Jim Masters. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.